In this training video, I will cover the module on implement and manage hybrid identity. The learning objectives of this module are plan, design and implement the Microsoft Entra Connect sync, the different sign-in methods like implementing and managing the password hash synchronization, also referred as PHS, implement and manage the pass-through authentication, also referred as PTA, implement and manage the federation, troubleshoot synchronization errors, implement Microsoft Entra Connect Health, and finally, manage Microsoft Entra Connect Health. Before we talk about planning, designing, or implementing the Entra Connect, let us understand what is Microsoft Entra Connect. The Microsoft Entra Connect is a tool or a software that you install in your on-premises. It's a solution that bridges the organization's on-premises Active Directory with the cloud-based Microsoft Entra ID. You use it to synchronize your identities from on-premises. These identities can be the users, groups, or the devices. It helps in performing the seamless authentication for the users to access the corporate applications in on-premises and as well as the cloud applications. Now let us talk about the Microsoft Entra Connect key components. Number one is the synchronization. This tool is responsible for creating the users, groups, and the devices and other objects. It also makes sure that the identity information for your on-premises users and groups matches the cloud identities. This synchronization also includes the password hashes. You also can sync the password hashes from on-premises to the cloud. The different sign-in methods are like password hash synchronization. In this sign-in method, the password hash from the on-premises Active Directory is synchronized to the Microsoft Entra ID, which provides the same sign-on experience to the users, which means that users have the same username password in on-premises to access the on-prem resources and the same username password hash in the cloud to access the cloud applications. The end users may feel that it is single sign-on, but it is not. It is same sign-on. That same username and password is used in both of the directories because of this synchronization. But in case if this password synchronization is not possible because of the security constraints, then we can think of going with pass-through authentication, and we will talk about this sign-in method in much more details later. But here in this case, we do not synchronize the password hash to the cloud because of the security requirements. In this case, the pass-through authentication agent is deployed in on-premises that acts as an agent for the Entra ID to confirm that whether the password provided by users to access the cloud applications is correct or not. We also can set up the federation to take the control of all the authentications in on-premises through our own federation servers. So all the requests accessing the cloud applications will be redirected to our on-premises federation servers, and all the service requests will be taken care by the federation servers in on-prem. We do the health monitoring with the Entra Connect Health. This provides the robust monitoring capabilities for diagnosing and troubleshooting the issues. The Microsoft Entra Cloud Sync is a new tool, and this is actually for the same job that the Entra Connect does for the identity synchronization from on-premises to the cloud. But the Microsoft Entra Cloud Sync has few advantages over the Entra Connect. Number one, it is the lightweight agent and its provisioning is quite handy. Its configuration is stored in the Microsoft Entra ID. That's another thing. It does all sync configurations from the cloud. We do the management from the cloud and can be used in conjunction with Microsoft Entra Connect as well. This is, you can say, the future of the identity synchronization to the cloud. The Cloud Sync is built on top of the Microsoft Entra ID services, and the two key components of it are the provisioning agent, number one. So this Entra Connect Cloud Provisioning Agent is built on the same server-side technology as the proxy or the pass-through authentication uses. It requires an outbound connection only to the agents are auto-updated. Then provisioning services is the second component. This provisioning service uses a scheduler based model, And in case of the cloud sync, the changes are provisioned every 2 minutes by this. The sign-in methods when we configure the Entra Connect are the different cloud authentication methods like the password hash synchronization or pass-through authentication. In password hash synchronization, the users can use the same username and password to access the on-premises and the cloud applications, as I mentioned earlier. In pass-through authentication agent, the password hash is not synchronized to the Entra ID, and the Entra ID uses a pass-through authentication agent deployed in on-premises to validate that whether the password provided by user is correct or not. We also can set up the federation to hand off all the authentication requests to the on-premises federation servers. The Microsoft Entra Connect has different components. The components involved in this are: number one, the connector space, the CS. The connector space uses the objects from each connected directory, the on-premises and the Entra ID, and the actual directories. This is used actually to stage. All these directories are actually staged here first before they can process by provisioning engine. So any identity that is processed by the engine, so first it takes place through this connector space. The Microsoft Entra ID has its own connector space, and each forest you connect to has its own connector space as well. Next is the metaverse. The objects that need to be synchronized are created in the metaverse based on the synchronization rules that you have specified. The objects must exist in the metaverse before they can populate objects and attributes to the other connected directories. There is only one metaverse in this case of synchronization. The sync rules are used to decide which objects will be created or projected or connected, maybe joined to the object in the metaverse. The sync rules also decide which attribute values will be copied or transformed to the to and from the directories, both directories. The run profile is there that bundles the process steps of copying the objects and their attribute values according to the sync rules between the staging areas and the connected directories. Let's talk about the implementation and management of the password hash synchronization sign-in method. The password hash synchronization has the simplicity of the password hash synchronization solution, and it is one of the easiest methods to set up the sign-in method. In this case, the password hashes from the on-premises are synchronized to the Entra ID. The Active Directory domain services stores the passwords in the form of hashes, which is a one-way encryption until unless you have the store password using reversible encryption mode policy enabled that we use sometime for legacy applications. But otherwise, the password stored in Active Directory is in a hash format. It is one way, which means that the password from plain text is converted to the hash and cannot be turned back to the plain text, so that the password is not compromised. So that is why we say the password hash is synchronized, not the password, or it's not a plain text. A hash value is a result of a one-way mathematical function, the hashing algorithm that is used, and there is no method to revert the results of one-way function to the plain text version of the password. To synchronize your password, the Microsoft Entra Connect Sync extracts your password hash from the on-premises Active Directory instance. Extra security processing is applied to the password hash before it's synchronized to the Entra ID authentication service. The passwords are synchronized on a per user basis and in a chronological order. We enable the password hash synchronization during the setup of the Entra Connect. When we install the Entra Connect tool during our sign-in method, we choose the password hash synchronization, which is by default enabled. In fact, is the default option. If you use the custom settings, so when you install the Entra Connect, the password hash synchronization is available on the sign-in page, and you can change it according to your requirement, maybe to the PTA if required, the pass-through authentication in case you want to use. After the password hash synchronization, let's talk about the pass-through authentication method. Sometimes the organizations have the restrictions that they cannot allow you to synchronize the password hashes of their identities to the cloud. So in that case, you need to look for a solution where you can authenticate the users in the cloud without storing the password hashes in the Entra ID. For this purpose, we deploy the pass-through authentication agents in on-premises. These agents communicate with the Entra ID, and Entra ID contacts these agents to check that whether the passwords supplied by the users are correct or not. The processing is this way. The Microsoft Entra pass-through authentication allows the users to sign in to the on-premises and cloud-based applications using the same passwords, and the feature provides users a better experience, one less password to remember, and reduces the IT help desk costs also because your users are less likely to forget how to sign in. And when users sign in using the Entra ID, this feature validates their passwords directly against your on-premises Active Directory with the help of this PTA agent you see on the center bottom of this diagram. The pass-through authentication agents are deployed more than one. We deploy multiple instances to have the high availability, and it is active configuration, so multiple pass-through authentication agents can be active at the same time for scalability and the high availability, so that in case if one agent is down, so other agents can be used by the Entra ID to validate the password of the users. This is how the pass-through authentication works. For an instance, a user wants to access the cloud application. The Entra ID will challenge the user to provide the username. User provides the username, let's say user alex@contoso.com. Now, the Entra ID can validate that the user is a valid user or UPN. Then the next page, at the next page, the Entra ID will request for the password. User will provide the password, but Entra ID cannot validate this password because it does not have this locally stored. It was not synchronized by the Entra Connect. So this Entra ID will send this information provided by the user, this password hash, to match in the on-premises directory through the pass-through authentication agent. So this information is encrypted, the communication is SSL protected, and then this pass-through authentication agent uses the ADFS like API to contact the Windows Active Directory Domain Services servers to check that whether the password is correct or not. And based on the response received from the Active Directory domain controllers, the pass-through authentication will update the Entra ID that whether the password is correct or incorrect or password has been expired. We can enable this pass-through authentication from the same sign-in page. So the second option we have is the pass-through authentication, and then rest of the options are there for federation with ADFS or ping as a third party, or maybe you don't want to do the sign-in method or configuration right now, you just want to synchronize the identities, then you can go with do not configure. Remember that pass-through authentication is a tenant-level feature, and turning it on affects the sign-in for the users across all the managed domains in your tenant. So for an instance, you have 10-20 different domains associated on the same directory. They will all be affected. If you are switching from Active Directory Federation services to pass-through authentication, then you should wait at least for 12 hours before shutting down your ADFS infrastructure as well. This wait time is to ensure that users can keep signing in to the Exchange Active Sync during the transition. After the password asynchronization, let's talk about the pass-through authentication method. Sometimes the organizations have the restrictions that they cannot allow you to synchronize the password hashes of their identities to the cloud. So in that case, you need to look for a solution where you can authenticate the users in the cloud without storing the password hashes in the Entra ID. For this purpose, we deploy the pass-through authentication agents in on-premises. These agents communicate with the Entra ID, and Entra ID contacts these agents to check that whether the passwords supplied by the users are correct or not. The processing is this way. The Microsoft Entra pass-through authentication allows the users to sign in to the on-premises and cloud-based applications using the same passwords, and the feature provides users a better experience, one less password to remember, and reduces the IT help desk costs also because your users are less likely to forget how to sign in. And when users sign in using the Entra ID, this feature validates their passwords directly against your on-premises Active Directory with the help of this PTA agent you see on the center bottom of this diagram. The pass-through authentication agents are deployed more than one. We deploy multiple instances to have the high availability, and it is active configuration. So multiple pass-through authentication agents can be active at the same time for scalability and the high availability. So that in case if one agent is down, so other agents can be used by the Entra ID to validate the password of the users. This is how the pass-through authentication works. For an instance, a user wants to access the cloud application. The Entra ID will challenge the user to provide the username. User provides the username, let's say user alex@contoso.com. Now the Entra ID can validate that the user is a valid user or UPN. Then the next page, at the next page, the Entra ID will request for the password. User will provide the password, but Entra ID cannot validate this password because it does not have this locally stored. It was not synchronized by the Entra Connect. So this Entra ID will send this information provided by the user. This password hash to match in the on-premises directory through the pass-through authentication agent. So this information is encrypted, the communication is SSL protected, and then this pass-through authentication agent uses the ADFS like API to contact the Windows Active Directory domain services servers to check that whether the password is correct or not. And based on the response received from the Active Directory domain controllers, the pass-through authentication will update the Entra ID that whether the password is correct or incorrect or password has been expired. We can enable this pass-through authentication from the same sign-in page. So the second option we have is the pass-through authentication, and then rest of the options are there for federation with ADFS or ping as a third party, or maybe you don't want to do the sign-in method or configuration right now. You just want to synchronize the identities, then you can go with do not configure. Remember that pass-through authentication is a tenant-level feature, and turning it on affects the sign-in for the users across all the managed domains in your tenant. So for an instance, you have 10-20 different domains associated on the same directory. They will all be affected. If you are switching from Active Directory Federation services to pass-through authentication, then you should wait at least for 12 hours before shutting down your ADFS infrastructure as well. This wait time is to ensure that users can keep signing in to the Exchange ActiveSync during the transition. Let us now talk about the Seamless Single Sign-On, SSO. This Seamless Single Sign-On allows the users to log in and access the cloud applications without re-authenticating again and again. The Microsoft Entra Seamless Single Sign-On, or also referred as Microsoft Entra Seamless SSO, automatically signs users in where they are on corporate devices connected to the corporate network. When this is enabled, the users don't need to type in their passwords to sign into the Microsoft Entra ID, and usually there is no requirement to type in their usernames. This feature gives users easy access to the cloud-based applications without needing for any additional on-premises components. The Seamless SSO can be combined with either the password hash synchronization or pass-through authentication methods you use. The Seamless SSO is not applicable to the Active Directory Federation services. You will notice that this Seamless Single Sign-On option is available on the sign-in page where you select the sign-in method. So here you see that at the bottom there is Enable Single Sign-On, the setting that you want to configure for your corporate desktop users. Well, this is about the Seamless Single Sign-On configuration for the user. If we want to see that how this Seamless Single Sign-On works, so for security reasons, the Azure AD SSO ACC account, computer account, needs to be strongly protected. In this case, only domain admins should be able to manage the computer account. This computer account actually represents to the Entra ID or Azure Active Directory in your on-premises. Ensure the Kerberos delegation on the computer account is disabled and that no other account in Active Directory has delegation permissions on this computer account. Store a computer account in an organizational unit where it is safe from accidental deletion and where only domain admins have access to it. These are some of the best practices to secure this account, this Azure AD SSO account. This account's Kerberos decryption key is provided to the Entra ID, through which it can use the user's local tokens or credentials provided to access the cloud applications without doing any re-authentication. After the password has synchronization and the pass-through authentication, the third method that we have for sign-in for users is the federation. To implement and manage the federation, these are the components that are involved. We want the cloud applications to access, but the authentication to be taken care by our own federation servers. You will see on the right side that the federation server farm has multiple federation servers in on-premises, and we keep the federation server proxies in the DMZ environment rather than exposing our federation servers to the internet users. Now, these federation proxy servers external URLs are there, and they are actually federated with the Entra ID domains, the verified domains that we have added. Remember, you cannot set up the federation with the available domain that ends with .onmicrosoft.com. So you will require the verified domains or custom domains added on your Entra tenant, with which you will set up this federation. Now, as soon as the users try to access the cloud applications, then the users will get a challenge from the Entra ID. And as soon as the user provides the UPN, let's say user alex@contoso.com, the Entra ID will check that whether the contoso.com domain has a federation setup. If it is federated, the status is that federation is enabled, then it will do the home realm discovery and will redirect this user to the federation servers of this Contoso organization in on-premises through this federation proxy. So the proxy receives this connection, terminates this connection, and initiates the request to the federation servers. So it is an extra layer of security. Then the users do the authentication in the on-premises, obtain the token, and then the claims are issued by the federation servers. These claims are trusted by the Entra ID or the federation servers of Microsoft, through which the cloud applications are protected. The federation is actually done, or it is a kind of trust between the two domains. We do it for business to business, or we can do it within the business also for single sign-on purpose. The federation is a collection of domains that have established a trust. In fact, it's the evolution of the trust relationship. The level of trust may vary, but typically includes the authentication and almost always includes the authorization. A typical federation might include several organizations that have established trust for shared access to the set of resources. You can federate your on-premises environments with the Microsoft Entra ID and use the federation for authentication and authorization purpose. The sign-in method ensures that all the user authentication occurs in on-premises. You have all your password policies or the security policies and the hardware securities through the one-time password or your own authentication methods that you have for the multi-factor authentications. You can use them. This method allows the administrators to implement more rigorous levels of access control. Federation with ADFS and ping federate is available that you can set up. In a nutshell, you hand off the authentication request to the on-premises servers instead of doing it to the cloud. Deploying a federation with ADFS and Microsoft Entra Connect is a multi-step process. You can set it up through the Entra Connect tool that can minimize the number of steps required for this, or if you know how to set up the federation between the domains, then you can do it from the server manager or through the PowerShell modules as well. Local administrator credentials on your federation servers are required. Local admin credentials on your workgroup servers, not domain joined for the proxy servers. Actually, these machines are in the DMZ, so not joined to the domain. And the machine that you run the wizard on to be able to connect to any of the other machines that you want to install the ADFS or the web application proxy on by using the Windows remote management. So this Entra Connect tool can help you reduce the number of steps to configure this federation. The primary steps are you need to select the federation servers, then the federation proxies, then specify the federation service account, and then select the Microsoft Entra domain to federate. I will put a Microsoft Learn reference link in the description of this video for your reference for the detailed step-by-step guide for setting up the federation. These are some of the links that are there to repair the trust or federate with Microsoft Entra ID using the alternate login ID, adding a federation server, adding a federation web application proxy server, or adding a federated domain. Now that we have discussed the different sign-in methods, PHS, PTA, and the federation, let us talk about implementing the Microsoft Entra Connect Health. What is Microsoft Entra Connect Health? It provides the robust monitoring of your on-prem identity infrastructure for diagnosing and troubleshooting any issues. It enables you to maintain a reliable connection to the Microsoft 365 and the Microsoft Online services. It provides monitoring capabilities for your key identity components, makes the key data points available, these components easily accessible. Microsoft Entra Health Connect portal is aka.ms/AAD Connect Health. The Microsoft Entra Connect Health provides this robust monitoring of your on-prem identities and the Entra ID. You can detect and diagnose and troubleshoot any issues. The information is presented in the Microsoft Entra Connect Health portal, and you use the Microsoft Entra Connect Health portal to view the alerts, any performance monitoring, usage analytics, or the other information that is helpful in diagnosing and troubleshooting the issues. The Microsoft Connect Health enables the single lens of health for your key identity components in one single place. The considerations for installing the Microsoft Entra Connect Health are: Microsoft Entra ID Premium License P1 or P2 is required. You need to be global administrator to deploy it. Microsoft Entra Connect Health Agent you install on each server to collect the health data from the ADFS servers or your Active Directory domain server machines. Firewall must be open for specific IP ranges and the TCP ports that you will be guided through. TLS inspection can block the block installation or the operations. PowerShell 4.0 or later is required. FIPS compliant encryption must be disabled. So these are some of the considerations while installing this Microsoft Entra Connect Health on your identity and federation servers. I will put the reference link in the description of this video for more details about what ports need to be open, like TCP port 443 or 567 port to be opened, PowerShell 4 server requirements like 2012 or 2012 R2. 2012 R2 is already having the PowerShell 4 on this. If you're using 2012, that contains PowerShell 3, but you can roll out a new version of PowerShell to that. The examples are Microsoft Entra Connect Health or ADFS installation steps are like: install the agent for Active Directory Federation service, configure the agent, sign in using the Microsoft Entra account with permissions to register the agent, then ensure that the Microsoft Entra Connect Health services are installed. Install the Microsoft Entra Connect Health agent for the synchronization. This agent acts as a sensor and keeps monitoring the health issues of this identity server, the ADDS or ADFS server, and keep sending the details to the Entra Connect Health portal, where from you can see everything so through one single pane of glass. Managing the Microsoft Entra Connect Health, you can enable the notification that the security teams or the system administrators are notified. You can configure the Connect Health services to send the email notifications when there are alerts that indicates that your identity infrastructure is unhealthy. This occurs when an alert is generated and when it is resolved, so the notifications can be sent. Additional tasks that we can configure are: delete a server or service instance. So we can delete a server from the Entra Connect Health service, delete a service instance from the Entra Connect Health service. When you are deleting a server, be aware of a few things like the action of deleting the server stops collecting any data from the server. This action does not uninstall the health agent from your server. This action does not delete the data already collected from this server. And after this action, if you want to start monitoring the same server again, then you must uninstall and reinstall this health agent on this server. Troubleshooting the synchronization errors. In case you face synchronization issues, then you can diagnose and remediate the duplicated attribute sync errors. Duplicate user principal names, proxy addresses, orphaned objects can also be found. Occasionally, you might find that an existing user loses the source anchor. The deletion of the source object happened in on-premises Active Directory, but the change of the deletion signals was never synchronized to the Microsoft Entra ID. This loss happens for reasons like the synchronization engine issues or the domain migration. When the same object is restored or recreated logically, an existing user should be the user to sync and the source from the source anchor. It should be synchronized. When an existing user in the cloud only object, you can also see the conflicting user synchronized to the Microsoft Entra ID. The users can't be matched in sync to be existing objects. There is no direct way to remap the source anchors in this case. The data mismatch errors can be there, like invalid soft match or object type mismatch. Duplicate attributes issues can be there. Attribute values must be unique. Data validation failures can be there. Identify the data validation failed or federated domain change errors. Large objects or admin role conflicts can also be there. So these can be some of the potential synchronization issues, and they have been documented very well in the Microsoft Learn. You will find the link in the description of this video. Well, this is the summary of this learning path where we discussed about the initial Microsoft Entra ID configuration, be it Entra roles, custom domains, administrative units, tenant-wide settings. We configure and manage the identities like users, groups, licenses, focus on the proper maintenance of them. External identities, inviting the guest. External collaboration, invite individuals or in bulk, or use external identity providers. Hybrid identities, connecting to your on-premises Active Directory, Microsoft Entra Connect, and the Entra Cloud Sync. Implementing PHS, PTA, and single sign-on federation sign-in methods, and Entra Connect Health. There are labs related to all of these topics. I will put the link of the videos of the lab demonstrations of all these exercises I have done. So you can see those videos for managing user roles, working with tenant properties, assigning licenses to users and groups, configuring external collaboration, add guest users to the directory, add a federated identity provider. There are some reference links related to implement initial configuration of Microsoft Entra ID, create, configure, and manage